Hello everyone. So it's November, it's the beginning of the month and it's Sunday, and usually around this time I try to go through my agenda, see what I have planned for this month, see what I have planned for the week, and try to make a plan about how I can tackle everything that I have to do. And there are many ways for me to do this. I normally use a journal, which is a normal notebook, and I'll also show you methods that I used before, previous journals that I used in the past few years. So this is one of the agendas that I used between 2021 and 2022. For example, you can see that it has a 1 month layout in two of the pages. And for example, in September 2021, I attended a care of critically ill surgical patients course. It was a 2-day course. Not much was happening this month, clearly. So this was the only event that I thought was important for me to put in a notebook. Flip to October, for example. This is when I started my induction for the job that I'm currently in. This was a few years ago now. But unfortunately, the day after induction, I discovered that I had COVID and then had to isolate for a few days. So I even logged it here that I had a COVID isolation, and then I was still feeling quite unwell, so I had to continue with a few days of leave in order to recover. These days basically show that I had a normal weekday and nothing really significant was going on. Flipping on to November, this is when I started some of my on-call, so I made sure to put them in the agenda. For example, I had a 4-day on-call, Monday to Thursday here, and had Friday off. But then I was in Birmingham attending a course for about 3 days the week after. Back to normal life the week after, and then weekend on-calls right here. These are basically normal 8 to 5 days. And I was covering the ward in the weekend. This is one of the agendas that I used in 2021 and 2022. So this is one of the notebooks that I used after the previous one. This is smaller, it was much easier to carry around. And you can see here that I have tabs that divide the months. So you've got from August, September, October, then I've got November right here, December and Jan. And if we flip through the months you've got August. In August, main stuff that was going on was that I had night on calls, some days off, and then night on calls again. So I divided it into days, and it was much easier to follow that way. Even though not much was going on that needed to be logged in August, I still kept pages for it. Then you flip on to the week after. Had my night on calls here, a few days off there. It's much easier when you can see everything laid out for you. Lately, I've been wanting to use a small notebook just to carry it in my pocket, just to, have it around whenever I need to jot something down. Yeah, so for example, in July, I had to register an audit. I had to send an email, things including payment of electricity, tax. I needed to collect colleague feedback. In the NHS, you basically have to collect colleague feedback once a year. You also have to collect patient feedback every 5 years. And basically, I think it's about 15 patients that you have to collect. So that was my target for July. I wasn't very happy with this notebook. It just felt too small. So I moved on to another one. I purchased a normal A5 notebook. As you can see, it's just dotted lines. I'm not sure if the camera shows. It's just a few dotted lines, and it was blank, which meant that I could, do whatever I wanted with it. So the way I used this one was that initially my thought was to have a 4-month spread to see what's going on. This is 2023 spread. So I had September all the way to December, which is the time that we're currently on, and my plan was to write everything down here, but I needed a much more detailed spread, so I changed it, then made it into separate months. So for example, for September, a separator page. Then I had the September pensive, or the September brain dump, where I basically write everything that's happening in September. My major things were having night on calls, having some time off after night on calls, and an annual leave in September, and I went to York and Leith at that point. And then after you have the full brain dump of September, you have a weekly spread which shows things in a bit more detail. And I use this annual leave basically to go to Leeds and York. Simple tasks. I didn't have much going on, so it was just about booking a train ticket, booking a hotel, and the time I spent in York and some time in Leeds. But I also had clinic to prep for the week after, so I had to prep my Monday clinic, which is a double clinic, AM and PM. And then on Friday I was coming back to London, but then I had to make sure that I send the clinic prep on Friday morning to let everyone know what the plan is for Monday clinic was. I basically have a key of how I put everything there, and the key basically says that if it's a circle, this means this is a task. If the circle is half filled, then the task is in progress. If the circle is filled, then it's completed. If there's an arrow going forward, it's postponed. And if there's an arrow going backwards, it means it was preponed. Then I have triangles. This is basically either an appointment or an event. That can include clinic or theatre. And once again, it's the same thing. If there's an arrow, then it's postponed going forward. And then if there is an arrow going backwards, then it was preponed. If there's an X on the event, then that means that it was cancelled. And if the triangle is filled, then it was completed. I also have a small dash if I'm just adding a note. And if there's an exclamation mark, then this is important. We are now in November. So let's prepare our brain dump for November. So today is the 3rd of November. It's Sunday, so usually on Sundays I start prepping the week ahead. I do have the schedule for this week. They normally send it on Fridays so that you know what you're supposed to do for the entire week. So for example, on Monday, I've got a double clinic. Which I've already prepped for the Friday before. Then this Tuesday, I've got theatre. Then we have smaller things to do. So I had a clinic last Friday that I need to send email for the outcomes. So I'm adding this as a task and email. I have a double clinic here, which means I have to prep for this clinic and make sure everything is sent by Tuesday morning. Let's not forget that I'm at work from 8 in the morning till 5 in the afternoon, and there are a few things that need to get done. And another thing before I let you go, the tasks that I was talking about and showing you, I have them in a separate paper and I have them taped right here in my notebook so that every time I'm flipping pages, I can just very easily look at it, and when I don't need it, I can just tuck it in. So I divided this for a few months. So we've got our December, that's still very blank because I'm not sure what events are happening in December. I know that I have a few day-on calls, especially in the weekend here, and the Christmas bank holiday, so I'll schedule them a bit later. Then we move on to, you can see here, I separated everything by tabs. So we've got January and all the weeks, and then we've got Feb, March, and finally April. It's all pretty much the same. You can basically buy any notebook and you can make this happen. I didn't want to use a structured notebook this time because I wanted it to, have a bit of my personality and be as flexible as possible. Big reminder that you don't really need a special agenda to have your life sorted out. You can use any small notebook. You can use a bigger notebook that's blank, and you can use tabs to divide everything. Personally, I opted to use my just a blank notebook and write everything down in it. And in terms of hanging everything on the wall and making sure you remember and can see all of your plans, you don't need an acrylic special, board thing. You can simply use a normal calendar, normal paper, and write down your calendar. For example, I did this for March and wrote down all my 0 days and all my work days. Didn't really need to use anything fancy. It's just that you need to see what's happening so that you don't forget to schedule your time around it.